It is no sign of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. This quote by Jiddu Krishnamurti seems to perfectly describe the situation humanity is facing today. The choices made in the present are determining not only the future of future generations, but also the very survival of organized humanity. This is a crucial moment in history when collective awareness and concrete action could make the difference between the collapse and the survival of humanity. In this content, we want to propose the ideas, analyses, and suggestions of Noam Chomsky, one of the most influential voices in contemporary philosophy. Born in Philadelphia in 1928, he transformed modern linguistics and gave rise to critical reflections on power and society. Through his writings and speeches, he denounced the dynamics of control of political and economic institutions, while offering tools to understand and address the challenges of the present. Today, at the venerable age of over 90, he continues to be a central figure in global debates. The climate crisis is one of the greatest emergencies in human history. According to Chomsky, the problem lies not only in the severity of environmental damage, but above all, in the role that political and economic institutions play in perpetuating it. The fossil fuel lobbies, with their immense influence, have for years orchestrated deliberate campaigns to deny or downplay the urgency of climate change. Through pressure on governments, funding front groups, and disinformation strategies, these organizations have built a system that puts private profits before the well-being of the planet and the community. This system is supported by power structures that actively collaborate with the energy industry. Chomsky highlights, for example, the role of NATO, an organization that, after the Cold War, took on the task of protecting pipelines and transportation routes for oil and gas, making itself complicit in the systematic destruction of the environment. This transformation shows how institutional power has been bent to the interests of an industry responsible for much of global warming. The implications of these actions are enormous. Not only do they accelerate environmental degradation, but they also block any attempt to limit the devastating effects of climate change. The recent surge in gas prices, exacerbated by the conflict in Ukraine, has provided yet another excuse for fossil fuel companies to ramp up production while completely ignoring the need for a transition to sustainable energy. This dynamic, fueled by the inertia of political institutions, contributes to what Chomsky describes as a planned project of organized destruction of human life on Earth. Yet Noam does not limit himself to criticizing. He also offers solutions, but we will see these shortly. His philosophical reflections also highlight a brilliant and exhaustive contradiction that characterizes human history, namely, the gap between the extraordinary technical capabilities acquired and the inability to develop a collective morality capable of governing them. If you like, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to not lose sight of us. Thank you very much for the constant support we receive. Humans, through science and technology, have achieved goals that seemed unthinkable. But this progress has not been accompanied by an equivalent growth in terms of ethical responsibility and awareness of the consequences. Chomsky calls this discrepancy a moral divide, a term that indicates the inability to use technological progress for the common good, preferring instead actions that lead to destruction. This concept has been particularly evident in the nuclear age, when humanity acquired the power to annihilate itself. On August 6, 1945, the bombing of Hiroshima opened a dark chapter in modern history. For Chomsky, that day represents not only a tragic war event, but a warning about what human beings are capable of doing if technical progress is not tempered by moral wisdom. The nuclear age has shown that humanity is capable of creating tools of destruction on a planetary scale. But the moral divide is not limited to nuclear risk. Another dramatic example is the progressive destruction of the environment. Man, equipped with the means to irreversibly alter natural balances, seems unable to control the greed and pursuit of profit that are leading to ecological collapse. According to Chomsky, the problem is not only technical or scientific, but profoundly ethical. It is no longer a question of whether humanity has the power to destroy the planet, but whether it has the wisdom and courage to stop before it is too late. This inability is not accidental, but rooted in the social and economic structures that dominate the contemporary world. Decisions are not made based on the collective good, but under the pressure of political and economic interests that often ignore the long-term consequences. For Noam, humanity is at a crossroads: to continue on this path of self-destruction or to develop a new awareness that puts the survival and well-being of the planet at the center of decisions. So what are the solutions that still exist to address this crisis and bridge the moral gap? There are several. One of the most significant is the transformation of fossil fuel companies into public utilities. Chomsky argues that these companies, responsible for much of the environmental degradation, should be bought by governments and run for the common good. This is not a utopian idea, but a proposal supported by economic studies, which demonstrate how this transition is not only feasible, but also necessary to ensure a sustainable future. Public management of these industries would reduce their destructive influence and direct resources towards sustainable solutions. And then, he warns that all this requires a radical change in political and social priorities. A break with the dominant economic model is needed, which continues to prioritize short-term profit over the health of the planet and the quality of people's lives. Another fundamental aspect is the role of technology. Chomsky recognizes that this, if used wisely, can become a tool to solve many of the global problems. But technological progress is not intrinsically positive or negative. Its value depends on the use that is made of it. For this, a change of perspective is necessary. True progress, according to him, does not consist only in the invention of new tools, but in the ability to use them to improve the lives of all, without damaging the environment or compromising the future of future generations. Chomsky's message is clear. The real challenge is not technical, but moral. Humanity's survival depends on the ability to recognize the mistakes of the past and to adopt an ethical and responsible approach to progress. What is needed is a change in collective mentality, one that focuses on cooperation and solidarity rather than competition and greed. The moral gap can only be bridged through a shared commitment to building a more just and sustainable world. As Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same kind of thinking that created them. This reflection invites us to look beyond immediate solutions and to rethink the way society is organized. Chomsky warns that time is limited, but solutions exist and are within reach. If we are willing to act, it will be possible to reverse the trend and ensure a better future. That's all for today. See you soon.